it is a concern for some businesses that they're going to pollute their other product line with these discounts. And so instead of doing that, they will do unique bundles or combinations that might include or be a product that isn't available year round.
You are now listening to the Creative Juice podcast, brought to you by Entrepreneur.io.
What's up, Indies? Welcome back to the Creative Juice podcast. This is episode 344. And if you are listening to this on the day of this episode's release, we are just a few weeks away from Black Friday, which is pretty crazy, about 5 weeks away, which is wild. I can't believe that we are nearing the biggest retail holiday of the year already in 2024. It's crazy. So today we are bringing to you our annual Black Friday planning episode. We do this every year. We love to do it. We've got some new things to talk about this year, just related to conversations that we've been having across our team, both at IndieX and at Indie Founder. And we wanted to bring it to all of you today for the show. So I'm so excited. Circa, how's it going, man?
It's going pretty good, dude. Can't complain. How about you?
It's going great, man. I'm really excited about this episode. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm hoping that it will give a lot of people clarity on the direction that they should go as far as planning out Black Friday and how to do it in a way that doesn't get you overwhelmed. Because I think Black Friday sales can be really, really overwhelming, especially if you're trying to tackle it yourself.
Yeah, and we're definitely going to do our best to address people of all different sort of starting points wherever you're at. So definitely don't feel that you're excluded from this conversation, no matter where you are in your career.
Definitely. Yeah, I think this is going to be fun. So let's kick it off with just talking about Black Friday. I feel like it goes without saying that Black Friday matters and it's something that you should at least be thinking about in your marketing strategy. But in case it doesn't go without saying, Black Friday is a big sales period and a lot of online businesses make a lot of money during it. Last year, during Black Friday, in the US alone, sales reached $9.5 billion, which is pretty crazy. The year prior, the global Black Friday sales were over $65 billion, which is nuts. And the average discount last year during Black Friday online was 31%. And apparently, according to a study, there were 64% of consumers are saying that they're going to shop online this Friday, with 36% of them seeking deals on social media. So people are going to be looking for your offers online. And why Black Friday matters and why sales matter in general, just to put this out there, is like people are in deal consciousness mode. They're buying. They're thinking about purchasing things. So you as an artist, as a creative, you want to tap into that. And so when it comes to any kind of sales period, holiday period, that's kind of the reasoning behind wanting to ride the wave. And Black Friday is no different, except that it's a really big wave.
Yeah, I heard an anecdote. I think it was this past weekend, actually, someone talking about how they were working at this business that had multiple locations in sales, and his location ran a sale. And what they found in the numbers was that when they ran a sale, it actually just pulled sales away from all the other locations. So people would go out of their way to go to this one location to get the sale price, and it didn't actually create new customers. And I think this serves as a good framework for you to understand how events like Black Friday can shuffle around the discretionary dollar to where like the average person has some amount of money, non-zero probably, hopefully, that they can spend per like month or per quarter on like discretionary spending, like just grabbing stuff they want, right?
Yeah.
And Black Friday is a black hole. It pulls all discretionary spending towards it, meaning that like what people are buying is less important than the fact that it's on Black Friday. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like people might purchase your product where they otherwise might not have, simply because it's Black Friday and you got in front of them, because they have they have an indiscriminate discretionary budget for sales holidays, meaning like they have some money set aside that they're just going to spend on Black Friday. And if you speak to them on that day, you can pull that discretionary dollar where you otherwise might not have.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And actually, that's a good point about sales in general, meaning like sales promotions is oftentimes what they do is they pull sales forward or pull
Yeah.
sales towards you, whether it's forward the people were going to buy from you in general, maybe later,
Or earlier.
yeah, or earlier, or it pulls them towards you and away from somebody else if you've got the right offer. That's where the power of these kinds of calendar events really come into play.
Yeah, yeah.
It's a cool anecdote though. That's really interesting about pulling sales away from other locations when one location was running a deal.
Yeah. So in this case, like it might be the case that you might worry that like, well, wouldn't I have just gotten a full price sale if I didn't run Black Friday sales either before Black Friday or after Black Friday? And it's like, well, maybe not, because people might just put a kibosh on spending no matter what the item is in and around this Black Friday holiday or any sales holiday. They might just say, I'm only going to spend my discretionary dollar when the discounts are heavy. It doesn't matter what I'm buying. So it might not be the case because you worry like, hey, aren't I polluting my like regular sales by running deals and discounts? Don't I like devalue my full price stuff? It's like, yes and no. You might for some of your customers, but there are a lot of people who just like, might not have otherwise bought your thing, but because it's Black Friday, like they're like, okay, your thing sounds cool. I got this like surplus because I've really allocated for this sales holiday. So like I might not buy a TV any time of the year, right? But like on Black Friday, I start thinking about like maybe we need a new TV, right? So it's like it really truly does unlock spending that would otherwise not have occurred in some cases.
Yeah, I was just going to say that's a really good point to add on here. It's just about like customer and consumer habits in general. Is you're at any given point in time going to have people in your audience, and this goes for any business, artist business, creative businesses as well. You're going to have people in your audience that they might be aware of your product, they might be aware of your offers, they might love your music, but they just might need a deal to get them over the hurdle of purchasing something.
Deal seeking is what we call it.
Yeah, there are deal seeker customers, and getting them at Black Friday is a great time to get them in. That might be the kind of customer that you're working with, similar to what you were saying.
And I think we've had some requests internally from our own team to clarify this because we might have been like less clear about this in past episodes of Black Friday. We're talking about Black Friday is just that like what Black Friday won't do, it probably won't be the reason you get your first sale in most cases, right? Or it shouldn't be. It probably won't be like the catalyst for unlocking sales and commerce for you where it previously didn't exist. It might be the case that like you just get to this point in your career where that makes sense and it happens to be right around Black Friday. And so you run a Black Friday sale, but like that doesn't mean you had to do Black Friday to do that. You just were there already. But the converse point is more important, which is that like, hey, if you're not at a place in your career where you are not foreign to making sales in general, or sales are not very sparse for you, or sorry, very regular for you, like they are sparse. Like if you're at that point, some of the maxims about Black Friday might not apply to you, such as like you can make 20%, you can make 1/5 of your revenue for the year in and around Black Friday. And it's like, well, that's true for established businesses or established sales flow, a sales volume. It might not be true for someone who's just starting out trying to even get their first customer base. And you should try to treat it like proportionally appropriately, meaning like if you're brand new, you totally should run a Black Friday sale if you have products to offer. Like we're not saying don't, but what we're saying is tamp down your expectations in terms of what it's going to represent to you. It serves a lot of utility for established businesses because you can pack all your sales into this one period. You can run a deal that it does encapsulate some of your existing volume you would have otherwise gotten. You would have otherwise gotten these sales at full price, and now you're paying for them in the form of a discount to the customer. But hopefully, in a lot of cases for established businesses, you are going to more than make up for that with the excess you shake out.
Right.
You're going to get people who wouldn't have bought from you until you gave them a deal. You're going to shake all them out. You're going to get people who wouldn't have bought from you except that it's Black Friday and they set aside some money for it. Okay. You're going to shake those out. You're going to, and then you'll get some first time customers. So in a lot of cases for established businesses with established sales flow, that's going to more than make up for the discount you're paying for it with. But for a brand new person, it might not. It's a little bit dicier math in that case.
For sure, yeah. And to kick off just talking Black Friday strategy planning here, like Cirque just mentioned, we were having a conversation with Jonah actually about some of the clients in our indie founder coaching program. And we were talking about Black Friday planning and how a number of clients were like, oh man, I really got to get my Black Friday stuff going. And they started to cook up really big, elaborate ideas of things that they wanted to tackle, when at the time, strategically, what they really needed to be focused on were the fundamentals and building foundational infrastructure in their music marketing. Yeah. And Jonah jokingly a few weeks ago said to me, like, dude, stop telling people to do crazy Black Friday stuff because they're not focusing on the things they need to do.
Well, like for someone like Andy Hunter of As December Falls, one of our agency specialists and founder coaches, he's got a band that's got tens of thousands of customers. They're selling out shows, like pretty high cap venues. And so they've got a large customer base, and they can afford operationally to do a more elaborate Black Friday promotion, or even have a special product for Black Friday, which a lot of established businesses will do. They will just not pollute the value of their other products they offer year round, and they'll create something that only exists on Black Friday.
Oh, dude, we're on like an ESP wave today. I was going to touch on product launches in a minute.
Yeah. It's a great way. It's a great, because one of the main worries about Black Friday is like, man, like, aren't people just going to, like, if they miss this, they're just going to see that it was like 35% off on Black Friday and just wait till the next one. And now I'm basically lowering the price of this product. And it's like, that can, in a sense, happen for some customers. And if you want to protect that, you can have a Black Friday only product that does. So the rest of your product line is saved from that effect. But that's the high we're talking about in the scale of like how elaborate.
Yeah. It's an edge case too. Like, I haven't really seen that happen.
Oh, I've seen it a lot.
Have you? I haven't really seen that happen over the long term.
So, and one way to do it is not creating a product necessarily, but creating a offer.
What I mean to say is I haven't seen the diminishing of value over time in terms of cut.
I haven't either. People don't have year-long memories, right? They don't think in terms of a year. So if you're talking to someone in July about like your product, they're not going to think, well, Black Friday's around the corner.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, that's not how people think. Yeah. But there's a non-zero chance, right? There are outside cases where like for instance, Thrive Themes, which is a WordPress plugin suite, they don't do Black Friday sales, and they regularly put out blog posts like on or around Black Friday that explain why they don't. They're like, we put everything into this product. We feel we price it fairly. And thus we're not going to, instead of discount on Black Friday and charge higher the rest of the year, we just charge one price that is lower than we otherwise would have, which is a great way to address it. So just to say that it is a concern for some businesses that they're going to pollute their other product line with these discounts. And so instead of doing that, they will do unique bundles or combinations that might include or be a product that isn't available year round.
And that works really well.
Yeah. One of my favorites is Digital Marketer does their Black Friday boot camp, or they did. I don't know if they do it anymore, but what they would do is they would create a Black Friday boot camp that is an info product that is only available on Black Friday. It includes tons of value, and a big portion of it is donated. So they get to write this huge check to a charity and make a very public showing of that immediately thereafter. So it's like a win. So just to say that's something you can do. You can say, I'm only taking this item out of the vault for Black Friday, and I'm not going to make it available other times. And because it doesn't exist elsewhere except Black Friday, well, now you can play around with, what are we discounting it down from, right? Because it doesn't exist elsewhere. You can't buy it elsewhere. So we're saying this discount, but what is the sticker established by? Like, that's indeterminate. Not to get too deep in the weeds, I just want to say, I wanted to set up for you the range of complexity where creating a product or an offer for Black Friday is probably all the way there on the other end. You have to create all the marketing materials. You have to create product images. You have to do all the copy from scratch. Like, that's really complex.
All the associated automations. You have to build ad creatives.
Yes.
Video and images.
And then build the product. Like,
hey, then you got to have the product. Exactly. It's difficult especially for artists that are really just starting to get their feet wet with building marketing systems that will help them grow. And it's like, okay, what we're really talking about are promotional assets that help you scale, which is a different thing.
And so you can talk about the feasibility of something like that. Let's set up the spectrum, right? We have like, I'm going to create a 10% off coupon for my whole store. And that's the only thing I'm creating is I'm going into my Shopify, I'm creating this coupon, and then I'm emailing out the coupon. That's like very easy. That's on the bare end of like this side of the spectrum. And then over here on this side of the spectrum, we have like creating a product for Black Friday. Now, what types of businesses can achieve which? Well, if you're just starting out selling products, like you should be on this end. But like someone like Andy Hunter as December Falls, or the 502s, or like some of our agency clients, like they have the infrastructure to support this. Or even someone like, I would say Jesse, Basic Printer, another of our specialists and coaches, he's a little bit smaller customer base wise, I think, than Andy, but he has just as much, if not more, boots on the ground experience doing these things. It can be largesse of customer base that defines, oh, I could do this end of the spectrum, but it could also just be experience. Hey man, you've really done this a lot. So this is not that much of a problem for you to do, even if the upside is less because your customer base is smaller. I hope that makes sense. We're setting up the spectrum of complexity. If you're beginning, you should be on this end. And if you're more established, you can be more towards this end.
Definitely. Yeah. I think I'm glad that we laid the foundation there. And I'm also glad we started to talk about product launches, because I wanted to also discuss how Black Friday is the last point in time in the calendar year where you can effectively pull off a launch of some kind, like a music related launch that doesn't have to do with holidays, right? That isn't in like the Christmas holiday season vein. This is the last time where, in my experience, you can really have an effective launch if it's related to like a new music release or a record, an album, so on and so forth. And I've seen plenty of our clients at the agency launch records around Black Friday and tie it into their Black Friday promotions, and it works really, really well. But it is the last time, and this is something that artists always ask me, is like, can I launch a single 2 weeks before Christmas? Like, oh, can I launch something like right before the new year? And my answer is always like, if you miss doing it at Black Friday, like, I would usually, generally speaking, without knowing any perfect specifics, I would usually recommend you don't.
And like what that is, it's like, maybe you can do it this one time, but what it is, it's an indicator of poor planning. And if you do that enough times, like, no, you can't. So it's like,
so well said.
We could say the one time is fine, but then we're not addressing the underlying problem. And that's just going to end you up at a place where it's not fine. So we might as well nip it in the bud here. Right?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. That's perfectly said. I couldn't agree more. So that gets product out of the way, I think, and timing your new releases, launches with Black Friday. It can be really effective. I would say over the last 5 years, probably about 30 to 40% of our agency clients at any given Black Friday have had something new to launch. And that is really effective for them. I'm pulling that number out of memory, so please don't hold me to it, but that's probably about the number that we've worked with over the years. And it's been great. That can be really effective for driving not only sales of the specific offer or product that you're trying to launch, but also just generally speaking, sales of everything in your product catalog, because people are going to your store and they're checking stuff out. So that can work really well. Now, when it comes to planning for across the spectrum where you find yourself, I think Circa was really helpful that you painted the A to B spectrum of Black Friday offers, because let's just talk simply here about an artist that is, just starting to grow an audience. Maybe they've got some releases that they've been doing and they've got under their belt. They're running ads to grow their audience, and maybe they've started to sell some products, but they don't have a huge email list. They don't have a huge customer list. If you had asked me a few years ago how I would approach this, my answer would probably be a little different than what I'm about to say now. But I would actually say, if you find yourself in that place, you should run a Black Friday sale. However, you should endeavor to make it as simple as possible for yourself. And I think it should be probably just a simple discount, and potentially consider putting that discount on products that you've either had a hard time moving or you're leaning on putting on clearance and maybe not restocking again anyway. That way you can just move dead stock, put the discount on it, strike up email marketing campaigns in a 3 to 4 email cadence, maybe some ads, some social posts, make it simple so that it doesn't distract your focus from everything else that you really need to be paying attention to right now, which is probably just getting more fans and making more music.
Yeah. That's really the problem, right? Is if you go too elaborate too early and you belong on this end of the spectrum, the easiest end, but you're doing the more elaborate thing. The main problem isn't that it won't work or that it won't pull sales at the same percentage based on how big your audience is. The problem is that you should be focused on other things.
Right.
And this is in a general sense. The more established and the more further developed you are, the more your focus is going to be on sales than it is on getting attention, branding, setting up infrastructure, all these other things that are the focus of a more beginning artist or brand in general. So yeah, like sales they've become a larger and larger slice of your attentional window as you become more established as a business or an artist in this case. But it's not the first priority, because really we're looking for, and we've talked about this ad infinitum on the podcast, but we're looking for addressing the current problem at all times. And just like in the recent episode, we talked about funnel flow. We talked about how it's a filter. We're starting with everybody. Then we're getting like people who pay attention when you put a piece of media out. And then we're talking about people who actually take an offer when you offer it to them. And it's filtering down and down. If you don't have build up volume at each of these phases, you're trying to build that right now. The people who can focus on sales, they have tons of buildup at I'm engaged, I'm subscribed, I pay attention, I stream all the releases, I'm on your social, like there's buildup at all these stages, and they're just trying to tap now the sales stage. So if you're before that, if you don't have buildup at the email list, if you don't have more subscribers than you can deal with, and now you're trying to convert them into customers, like by all means, you should focus on easier implementations, because chances are the juice isn't worth the squeeze. If you go more elaborate, the maximum amount of sales you can unlock is just not worth all that effort.
For sure. Yeah, exactly. And it becomes a distraction that might lead you to be disappointed. And that sucks. No one wants to be disappointed at the end of a sale. So setting yourself up with the right expectations and not investing a whole bunch of your time, effort, and energy on something that you know you should have moderate expectations about sets you up to then start working again when the sale is over and get back to work. And that's important.
I'd like to add also that, like, what does Black Friday represent, right? Like, can we abstract it away from sales? Can we not talk about sales and just talk about what Black Friday is if you take money out of the equation, take sales out of the equation? It is a point in time at which more people are online, more people are paying attention to advertisements and promotional messages, and more people are taking offers. So we didn't talk about sales at all during that, right? We just said they're online, they're paying attention to promoted messages, they're more likely to take an offer. That includes free offers. So if you don't have build up at the sign up stage, by all means, create a valuable offer for email sign up that you can give it the excuse of Black Friday. The reason I'm doing this right now is because it's Black Friday. I'm not going to sell you anything. I'm going to give you something for free. So what's better than 30% off? 100% off, right? I will give you 100% off this digital item. You sign up for my email list today. I send it to you immediately. So you can use Black Friday as an excuse for other types of promotions that don't involve sales. You can accomplish goals that are not sales.
For sure. Yeah. Yeah. And that's actually a helpful way to plug Black Friday or any holiday into whatever infrastructure you're working on building. Let's say you've been working really hard for the last 2 months on a cool opt-in offer and you're trying to build up your email list. Well, probably wouldn't be too hard to spin out some Black Friday themed copy around it and run some ads for a few weeks during Black Friday with that specific messaging. Bam, there you go.
You should also do things in advance. If you're like, let's say that you tour locally a whole lot. let's say that you do a lot of local shows, you're that type of artist, but you just don't have the online infrastructure right now to support like lots of people around the world buying your products, but you do local shows and you sell merch at that local shows. Great. You create something like a season pass, right? You can come to any of our local shows from here to here if you buy this like item. You can capitalize on the sort of limited bandwidth you have at these later stages without having to do like a full system wide, full regalia, like Black Friday promotion with multiple tiers for different types of customers. Like that's all more advanced stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And to speak to that for a second, let's say you do find yourself closer to that end of the spectrum. You can do some analysis of your own audiences, and I would say you should. Before you start working on Black Friday, you should know how big is my email list, how big is my customer list, my text list, how many times have people bought from me, how many people have bought more than twice, more than once, more than twice, more than 3 times, so on and so forth. Get a sense of what your audience looks like. And then what you can do is you can decide, number one, do I have something new that I'm going to release? Because that's going to inform everything else around your strategy. So I think that's the first question you should ask yourself. Am I offering something new? If the answer is no, then what you should likely consider and start to think about is, okay, if I'm not doing that, what are my offers going to be for various subsets of my fan base? And so that means, what am I going to offer to people who have never bought from me before? What am I going to offer to people who have? And am I going to offer something to people who have bought from me often that might be something very exclusive to only them? And maybe you find yourself with 2 to 3 offers max that fit into various subsets of your audience. That's the kind of more complex Black Friday offer structure when it comes to your audience. I didn't want to get into necessarily what each and every one of those offers could be or what they could entail. I want to make sure that actually we link to all of our Black Friday episodes that we've ever done in the show notes so that you guys can go on a deep dive if you're all of a sudden feeling really fired up, because we've talked about offers.
And especially if you're on that deeper end of the spectrum, like there's gold in them hills, right?
Yeah,
Like you go listen to those past ones. We go over like, what if you want to do a different offer for every like new customers, not customers, and your best customers? Like how do you tier this out and scheduling and all that stuff?
Yeah, exactly. But I wanted to bring up the point that like the main thing you should be thinking about is like, if I don't have something new to release, then what am I going to be offering to the various subsets of my audience that I should be offering something to? And then you can figure out how to build the assets around it, the email marketing campaigns, the ad copy, how to segment out your audiences so that you get the most exposure. And that sets you up for a successful Black Friday sale. You can decide what goes into that discount wise, if anything, bonuses if you don't want to do discounts. And actually, Circa, I wanted to circle back real quick to something you mentioned about like picking up sales on products that you bring out of the vault, so to speak. I've done that a lot with artists and it can work really well. And something that is also really cool about this is if you are pulling from products that you're already selling and you're like, oh man, I don't necessarily want to discount this down, or I'm worried about discounting this down because it impacts the perceived value for the future when it's not discounted, all of those concerns that we've already addressed. If you add bonuses to already existing items and you package that into an offer, and you don't add any price, you don't raise the price, but you just keep it at the price that it's normally been sitting at.
You just preserved the pricing power of your main products.
Exactly. And what's cool is then you can still call it a discount, because realistically, if you're assigning value to those bonuses, say you've got a record that you're selling for $20 and you're going to add 3 bonuses like a sticker pack, patches, and a tour poster valued at another $20. That entire package is worth then $40 and you're selling it for only 20. It's a 50% discount. And you can still say that, which is great.
Super good point. Yeah. Very important to mention. I think bundling is a great strategy. And as it pertains to Black Friday, there's so many different ways to skin this cat. And there's deep nuance. We could go into an episode just on, hey, what if you have 3 to 4 tiers of people you want to address with different offers? what are the specific strategies that are only relevant to this tier? Like there's certain things you might only do in the context of, I have 10% of my list is my best customers. I want to give them a special offer. How should I go about that? Bundling, taking things out of the vault. There's different nuances to each. So it can get quite deep. I think it's easier to overshoot complexity than it is to overshoot simplicity in this case.
Yeah, definitely. Honestly, I really think that this gives you a roadmap to hopefully tackle Black Friday in a way that doesn't overwhelm you, which is really the purpose of this episode. It was to give you a little bit of a roadmap and some ideas to work with to know, okay, I can evaluate where I'm at. I can evaluate what I've got upcoming, meaning like, do I have something new to release? And I can evaluate how my audiences look and what I might want to sell to them around Black Friday. And then I can evaluate what my expectations could be when it comes to the results of a Black Friday sale and the spoils that I might be able to participate in.
Yeah.
Black Friday is really cool because even if you're on the earlier end of the spectrum and maybe you just pull out a few sales, that's great for you. And I would be so psyched if you did. And what's really cool about that is you then build up the muscles, the marketing muscles, to know how to go bigger the next time as you grow and go bigger and bigger as time goes on. And that's why I would never say like, don't do it at all.
Yeah.
Do something just because it teaches you how to run a sale. And you're doing it at a time where you're likely to at least pull in some kind of win.
Yeah. Like literally we went over this earlier in the episode, but like you don't have to outgrow the simple Black Friday approach. You can outlearn it or out-experience it. So even just doing the rote task of doing the simplest Black Friday deployment you possibly could, you just do that enough times and you're experienced enough that a more complex one is not a problem. So it matters less that your audience is big enough to justify the complexity because the complexity lowers, right? The complexity is relative to your experience.
Yeah.
So you get more experience and you can do more complex things without taking as big a hit.
For sure.
So you go to entrepreneur.io/episode 344 and you'll have about a month to really ascertain like, what do I want to do? How do I get prepped for it? And then up to sending out first notification to your email list or creating first post if you don't even have an email list yet. I will say that if you haven't even thought about an email list yet, or it's very, very small, you're bordering on the line of whether it's worth it to deploy Black Friday. Like if you're still in the stage of I'm creating content and releasing singles, right? I'm trying to build up my capacity to make great short form vertical videos that get attention and my first fan base. At that point, like it's more of a distraction than it needs to be. Like if you're scrambling to even just have a product that you can sell on Black Friday, like you might want to skip it. But anything beyond that threshold, we've got at the show notes, you go to that link, entrepreneur.io/episode 344. And what we'll do is we'll try to provide some summary there for which episode goes over what stuff. That way you can say, okay, I have a month. I want to deploy this level of complexity. I need to know about scheduling it and what the email cadence looks like and what to offer. Like, okay, we'll have past episodes that you can review that are going to walk through that. And then if you're an Indie Pro member, we also have like, I think 2 different workshops in our workshops vault.
Yeah.
Hour-long plus with resources. Like you fill out a sheet and now you have your planning that you can go into to run a Black Friday sale. I think the latest one was taught about a year ago by Andy Hunter of As December Falls, who's got many Black Fridays under his belt. So definitely great resources for you if you're an Indie Pro member to go and get the full sort of step-by-step.
I love that each year we just add more and more Black Friday stuff to our little Indepreneur Black Friday strategy vault, and that the podcast gets to do that. So definitely review those. Like Cirque said, we'll make an effort to give you guys a summary on each of the links so that what to look at depending on what you're most interested in or what's most relevant to you. And I hope that you build a cool Black Friday sale this year. I would personally love to see my newsfeed flooded with Black Friday ads from folks in our community, although I would also prefer if they went away shortly thereafter so that I could find other cool stuff to buy too. But I'd love to see your Black Friday offers and what you guys are up to. And I hope that this was helpful, and we'll see you guys on the other side of Black Friday.
Oh yeah.
Peace out, gang.
Gang got really flipped.